The supreme lord of the chaotic gypsies, Dago Ryong, once ruled over all. He and his descendants once overpowered and dominated most of the gypsies. But what happened next is still a big question mark, after his empire suddenly collapsed. And the leader suddenly disappeared. His descendants followed him to lie in many places, scattered in different lands. Time gradually passed, I don't know how long it took. Inside a cave there were two people, one old and one young, making a fire to confide. The old man was telling the teenager the story above. This is the story told. Everyone knows. But all of those things are blatant lies, they betrayed me. Hyol Bai, Gui Young. Mok Sapyeong, Wan Saw. They all swore to protect me with their lives, but in the end they planned to assassinate me. But even if they dreamed, there would be no way to imagine. I can't imagine that I'm still alive. Dago Ryong, those traitorous bastards are just waiting for me. But at this point he suddenly stopped because the teenager sitting in front of him had fallen asleep at some point. The old man angrily raised his hand to pick up the long sword. As soon as he touched the long sword, the young man immediately regained consciousness. So you taught me everything so that I could kill all those who have played cunning tricks. And avenge my master, right? When the old man saw him speaking so heroically, his face was filled with a helpless look. For a moment he didn't know what to say. After a while he sighed and asked, "Today is the first time I'm telling you about this. So now what do you think the ending will be like?" The teenager countered, "Master, are you remembering it wrong? I've heard it 1,000 times. Just today, Master has repeated it more than 10 times. The old man's face fell. "Did I really do that?" The teenager sighed and nodded. The old man asked again, "Well, if that's the case, then what will you do after avenging me?" The young man's saliva immediately flowed and excitedly replied, "I will open a big dumpling shop and will eat dumplings every day." The old man heard that. His face darkened and he pulled out his sword. "Is that something? What will you do if you are a coward?" "But I will restore the heavenly destruction sect to regain its former glory, and destroy other forces in the world." At this point, he burst into laughter again. "Of course, that's really what I expect from my disciples, who will learn ultimate martial arts from my heavenly destruction sect." The boy also scratched his head and smiled extremely excitedly. After a while, the teacher and student suddenly turned serious and stared at each other. After a while, the old man spoke again, "Gang Ryong." The young man looked serious. "Yes, master." The old man explained, "Now I will teach you everything about the 12 great techniques of the heavenly destruction sect. Finally I will tell you about the enmities that I have kept secret from you until now. I won't tell it twice, so please listen." Gang Ryong heard that and his face changed. The old man then told the familiar story again. This story Gang Ryong had heard by heart. My heart never missed a word. A short time later, his master passed away. He immediately went to the center of the kingdom to carry out his intention. He was determined to shout loudly, "I will kill all of them to avenge my master," to soothe his angry soul. Quote, "I will let them all eat onions so that the soul of the master under the golden stream can rest in peace." But when he stopped at an inn to rest and eat, he heard the bad news again. "They're all dead." Gang Ryong turned to the young waitress and asked, "What did you just say?" "Dead. Who died?" The young woman calmly replied, "The people you just mentioned are Hyol Bai, Gui Young Mok, Sapyeong, and Wan Saw. They were once known as the 4 lords of the heavenly destruction sect." "Are they them?" "They passed away a long time ago. Right after the heavenly destruction sect disappeared, they fought each other to compete for the position of leader. It was their mutual killing that caused the heavenly destruction sect to collapse." Faster way. "This incident happened before I was born, but this incident is so famous that everyone in the gang knows about it." "You carry a bunch of swords on you, must be a martial arts master or something. You just came down from the mountain. How come you don't know about this?" Gang Ryong's eyes were about big as he sat there blankly. "Died? Bastards. Finally, what's going on now? So what about revenge for my master? What is this about my epic heroic exploits?" Time passes very quickly. A year has passed. Inside a prison there is a young man locked up here. The prison door slowly opens. The prison guard says, "You're free now, go out quickly. And you have somewhere to go. Seriously, if you're a respectable swordsman, why don't you become a bodyguard for the clans? That's noble." The young man turned and left and coldly replied, "No need, I will never use martial arts again." A prison guard suddenly remembered something and asked, "Is he the one who single-handedly destroyed the Iron Horse robbers last year?" The other nodded. "That's right, he is. He deserves to be honored for that, but it's unbelievable that he killed the Imperial Army that was also suppressing those bandits." This incident caused the court to suffer terrible losses. After careful consideration of his case, the maximum sentence given was to be locked up in a prison for 1 year. He doesn't look good yet. At the age of 20, is it already so powerful? If martial arts were used by people with good morals, it would not have become a weapon of mass murder. How many times have we witnessed seeing martial arts prodigies appear in the world, but in the end they all step onto the path of crime? I don't know what future awaits him. The two people stood there watching the young man leave and chatted for a moment, then turned around and wanted to return to the palace. At this moment, Gang Ryong ran over carrying a pile of things. "Here are the dumplings I asked for, sir." The two people were amazed. "Oh, the shipper came quickly." Gang Ryong smiled. "You ordered 2, right?" "No." "Okay, here's the money for the dumplings. Take them, thank you for ordering." The young man heard them chatting so curiously and glanced behind to take a look. Dumplings? Scene changes to the restaurant where Gang Ryong is working. The young man just got out of prison and didn't know what to eat, so he came here to make some dumplings. The atmosphere in the restaurant was extremely peaceful. In addition to that young man, there were a few other people in the shop who were also sitting and resting. At this moment, a few more people came in outside. 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman, were sitting there resting. This person was immediately startled. The old lady who owned the shop quickly stood up and invited the guests. "Please, guests, what do you guys order?" The young man in the blue shirt waved his hand. 5 cups of tea, please." The old woman nodded and turned around quickly to make tea. The group of 2 men and 1 young woman did not sit any longer and quickly stood up, put on their hats and wanted to leave. As soon as they stood up, the other 4 guys also left. They squinted their eyes and looked at the backs of the 3 people. And then they all stood up at the same time. The old woman had just finished making tea, and before she could serve it, the group of people stood up and left. One of them, when passing by the young man who had just been released from prison, brushed his hand, causing the dumpling to fall. Holding it to the young man's mouth, it fell to the ground. The young man bowed his head and looked at the piece of food until his mouth was still missing, then angrily shouted, "Hey, keloid guy. You just dropped my dumpling." Being called a keloid by the other person, the fat man angrily turned his head and looked back. The other people similarly turned their heads and threatened, "What did that brat just say? Is that so? Do you want to go see your ancestors soon?" But unexpectedly, the fat guy waved his hand. "Okay, then leave. Just give that kid a few coins." The people were surprised to see that he was so easy to talk to. Even so, they didn't say much and quickly took out a few coins and threw them to the young man. "Today is your lucky day." The young man didn't say anything else and just sat there quietly. After a while, the old woman's granddaughter went out to clear the table and saw a bag of things. "There are things that people forgot," the old woman sighed. "Oh my God." Quote, "This is the belongings of the young lady who just left. What should I do now? She has already paid for these foods." At this moment Gang Ryong happily came in from outside. "I'm home." The old woman saw him return and was happy. "Oh, you're lucky, you're here. Can you run quickly and bring this back to them?" Gang Ryong wondered, "What are you bringing?" The old woman quickly gave him the things. Gang Ryong confidently exclaimed, "This is easy, I will find them and return soon, but remember to go carefully." The other young man at this time, "I have just finished eating food." The scene changes to the forest near the restaurant. The group of young girls was now caught up and stopped by the other 4 guys. Her 2 guards were all slashed and injured. The fat guy came from behind and exclaimed, "What a pity. If you hadn't caught our eye, maybe you wouldn't have died here." 3 people, their faces were extremely frightened and they didn't know what to do. A few ugly guys with fierce faces raised their swords. "Do you want to have the last word?" At this moment, a cheerful voice rang out in the distance, "Finally found you." Gang Ryong ran back as if hiding without anyone, completely ignoring the group of bad people. He ran all the way in front of the girl and gave her the food. "Did you forget this food at the tavern at the intersection?" The girl reached out to take the food. Oh yes. Gang Ryong then turned around and wanted to leave. The goods have been delivered, then I'll go home. But those ugly guys suddenly stopped him. Haha, suddenly there's a turkey fat man came over so we could kill him. Kid, did you dream last night that you met the Korean Blind Association? So until now you still think you're invisible, right? Gang Ryong wondered, what is that? It really seems like that maybe I dreamed of something like that. But so what? A bad-faced guy smiled coldly and waved his sword. You're just imagining your power. Before he could slash down, a coin suddenly flew straight towards Gang Ryong's face. In front of the surprised eyes of the group, Gang Ryong just fell back and lay on the ground. The one who took action was the young man who had just been released from prison. After he threw out the coin, a clear expression appeared on his face. Reluctantly, fuck it, I should have hit the guy holding the sword, why did it hit that kid? But while I'm here, I haven't even started a move yet, you stupid people. Then get out of here. The bad guys all turned their heads to look at him. Gang Ryong was also stunned and raised his head from the ground. The girl also stood there in surprise and waited. The young man then threw up a pile of coins. Anyway, I will give all this money back to you, and after saying that, I threw all the coins at the crowd. But this doesn't make it difficult for the bad people. They just slightly dodged the coin. And the rest flew in front of the fat man, then another person turned his sword to block it. The young man saw this and was a bit startled. The other group of people then glared at the young man with fierce eyes. You little brat, you just brought disaster on yourself. The tall fat guy behind him also walked up and angrily exclaimed, who do you think you are? Are you so confident? If you like to cause trouble then I will deal with you. The young man stepped forward and sighed. I can't believe I broke my oath in just half day. Let's just leave it like that for this one time. The crowd listened to him babble and found it difficult to understand. The young man raised his head and looked at them coldly. Jump in here. I'll deal with all of you. When the crowd heard that, everyone's face wrinkled in anger. The girl in the distance was also surprised. Her eyes were big. As soon as the fat man stepped forward, the young man rushed at him at extremely fast speed. Swung his elbow straight into his stomach, causing fresh blood to spurt out of his mouth. Witnessing this scene, both sides were shocked to the point of incapacitation. I can't believe. The young man didn't stop and continued swinging his fist straight at the fat guy's face. He then turned around and looked at the rest of the group, finished with the biggest guy, the rest of you guys should rush up. Quote. But beyond his expectations, the fat guy still hasn't collapsed. As soon as he turned around, the fat guy immediately raised his hand from behind and held him tightly. I caught you, next. He immediately reached out and held the young man's head tightly. Is it so bad that he only has a little strength like that? Having finished speaking, he used all his strength to squeeze the young man's head and push it down. The young man was held by him and had no way to resist or avoid. He could only grit his teeth and endure. Have you ever heard of a strong martial artist from Ha-dong and has reached diamond body level? That person is me, the young man screamed miserably. And then fainted helplessly after a while. The fat guy then immediately threw him to the ground. The people on the girl's side saw this and helplessly exclaimed, what is this? Are you kidding? He should have assessed his opponent before rushing forward like that, but we should also appreciate his enthusiasm. At this moment, a sigh rang out. You dirty people! The crowd turned their heads to look at the main speaker. Is Gang Ryong. If you are really stronger than him, then you have to give in to him. And have a proper talk and let him go, without being so harsh with him. You guys are a bunch of filth. At this point, the young man turned around and asked the girls, do you mind if I give them a little lesson? You can go ahead. A guy couldn't help but swing his sword and knock on Gang Ryong's head. Hey fat guy there. Gang Ryong didn't turn around but swung his hand and launched two things towards his neck, two people's throats. Two people did not have time to react and were hit by the attack. And immediately collapsed. The rest of the guys saw this and were indescribably scared. What is that? The group of girls behind Gang Ryong also stared wide-eyed on the spot. Too fast and dangerous. You? What did I do just now? Gang Ryong raised his hand to wipe away the blood on his nose, not knowing if it was real or pretending, but he said his nosebleed was syrup. He turned around again. The head asked the middle-aged man behind him, aren't they coming with you? The middle-aged man nodded vigorously. That's right, there are only 3 of us. I saw that you guys were friendly, so I thought we were too. The fat guy on the other side shouted angrily. What kind of dead eyes do you have that see us being so friendly? Go ahead and kill that boy. Take advantage of the opportunity to attack quickly. Even though the thugs were almost behind him, Gang Ryong still stood there talking to the group of girls. Because I heard you guys talking about something like a will, so I thought you were discussing family matters. The 2 middle-aged guards shouted in panic, you were wrong, but be careful behind. It seemed like Gang Ryong was stabbed to death by the other 2 people. But when their attack reached Gang Ryong, he was nowhere to be found. While they were lost, Gang Ryong appeared behind them. He suddenly woke up. So this is a robbery. He raised his hand and used force to push the 2 young men's heads together. So you guys want to kill people to kill people? 4 out of the 5 robbers were easily handled by Gang Ryong. When he didn't notice the fat guy used the familiar trick was to wave his hand and hold him tightly. I've caught you, damn fat turkey, I'll crush you right here. But very quickly he realized something was wrong. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't crush Gang Ryong. On the contrary, Gang Ryong pushed his hands away with force. He didn't stop there and swung his elbow straight into his stomach. The fat guy was immediately punched until he clutched his stomach in pain. He struggled to retreat and leaned against the cliff behind him. In terror. Can't describe, I can barely breathe. Gang Ryong stared at him and raised his hand. What's wrong with Diamond Body? Try this. After speaking, he waved his fist and rushed towards him. The fat guy was scared and loudly explained, wait, I was just joking. Gang Ryong doesn't care about the heavenly destruction sect that takes power. When this punch hits the opponent, it will make the opponent's whole body numb. When the young girl saw Gang Ryong's move, her eyes immediately widened. What? Gang Ryong's punch hit the fat man, and immediately caused his body to stick to the wall. The rock. After a while, the teacher and student suddenly turned serious and stared at each other. Even the giant cliff cracked just because of this move's influence. The final cliff still did not stop. He couldn't bear it and fell down. The fat man was also buried inside by rocks and soil, life or death unknown. The group of girls behind were all gasping for air. Gang Ryong coldly said, he should have maintained the diamond body position for a few more hours, it would have taken him quite a while to escape from this pile of rocks, so I hope he will repent and return home to take care of his old mother. The girls' 2 guards stood to one side, silently contemplating, who is this kid? Yet with just one punch, she was able to punch Diamond Body away. The young girl exclaimed, the Heavenly Destruction Sect's punch. How could that fat boy know the ultimate martial arts of the Heavenly Destruction Sect? Gang Ryong didn't pay attention to them and quickly walked over to check on the young man's situation. You were also lucky that you only had a few broken bones, a few punctures in your abdomen and liver, so you were still able to be saved, said as he placed his hand on the young man's chest. The young man's true energy quickly moved, and he once again spat out a mouthful of blood. Gang Ryong then also retracted his hand. It's done, you'll get your strength back in about 10 minutes. He was about to leave but stopped and glanced at the group of people behind him. Oh yeah, these uncles. When the 2 people heard him calling, they were startled and frightened and immediately responded, yes, please just say it. So you taught me everything so that I could kill all those who have played cunning tricks. And avenge my master, right? When the group heard that, they were suddenly stunned. It took a while for them to bow their heads in unison. Of course, please rest assured, we will engrave that in our hearts. Gang Ryong also bowed his head. Thank you, then I'll take my leave. Word. The young girl reached out her hand to ask him to stop. Wait, young knight. If you don't mind, can you tell me your name? Gang Ryong scratched his head. That's troublesome. He then didn't bother anymore and quickly ran back. The 2 middle-aged people saw the young girl standing blankly behind them and quickly advised. Miss, although he is really strong, he seems to be quite stupid in normal communication. So I hope you don't take it as a bother. The young girl's eyes sparkled. Are you serious? But that annoying name is so cool. The 2 of you hearing that, your eyes are about to grow. Miss, oh my god, that's not a name. Gang Ryong quickly returned to the tea shop. I'm home, Grandma. The old lady asked a bit angrily, What took you so long? Gang Ryong explained. It took me a while to find them. The old woman stared at him. For a moment, then noticed something and asked, Are you fighting again? Gang Ryong felt guilty. What are you doing? The old woman continued to question, Then why is my abdomen bleeding? Gang Ryong was startled and raised his hand to wipe away the blood on his nose. I slipped on a banana peel on the way home. The old woman was surprised. Banana martial arts? Are you kidding this old lady? Yeren, this kid looks like he's fighting on the street again. There was an angry reply in the house. Again, what? Yeren quickly walked out from inside to Gang Ryong and asked, Is that true, Gang Ryong? Didn't you promise me a year ago not to use martial arts again? When I hired you to work here. Gang Ryong explained, I actually fell down while rushing back. But Yeren's eyes suddenly widened. Is your nose bleeding? Come here quickly. Gang Ryong, as he approached, he explained, I probably feel like this when I put my face on the ground. Yeren observed for a moment, then exclaimed, Oh my god, it's swollen. Go into the kitchen and I'll take care of it for you. I'm so bored of you. If you have to fight, at least win. Don't you call yourself a descendant of the heavenly destruction sector something, but don't fight while you're working. Quote. Gang Ryong still said, I said I just slipped. The old woman sitting outside sighed helplessly. Fantasy scene aside, this place is currently taking place an extremely disastrous battle. On the ground, countless people have died. The few survivors looked at the black-clothed man in front of them and cursed. That bastard Myo Chung. Aren't we comrades? How could you be so cruel? Myo Chung waved the chains in his hand and sighed, You're right. But please understand that I'm just doing my job. Finished speaking and swung the chain to hit the group of people. The young man who scolded him immediately died. Myo Chung, without stopping, he continued swinging the chain. And the guy next to him also immediately died. At this moment, there was only one person left in the yard. He did not stand still, waiting for death, but swung his sword and rushed forward. I had to kill him before he takes back his chains. Myo Chung glanced at him. In his mouth then suddenly appeared a tube of hidden weapons. Quickly several hidden weapons rushed towards the opponent. The young man was rushing towards him with no way. Before he could avoid it, the hidden weapon immediately hit his eye. Myo Chung then jumped up and finished him off. Myo Chung is an assassin who always completes every job assigned to him. Not only is he famous for his ruthless tactics, but he is also willing to take on anyone, including his brothers. After dealing with his teammates, Myo Chung immediately went on another mission. He received a painting. Portrait of an extremely beautiful young woman. He was born into a poor family, but I agreed to marry him and make him become a perfect man with my family's approval. But now he turned around and had an affair with another woman. That bitch's name was Song Choyong. I'm sure she seduced my husband just for my family's wealth. Please kill that lustful bitch for me. Myo Chung looked at the girl in the painting for a moment, then replied, Killing women is usually off my menu, but if you are willing to spend a small amount. It's not impossible, the woman continued. Don't worry about money, you will receive more than that small amount. Handle this suddenly and quietly, then I will consider giving you a large sum of money. Myo Chung suggested, By the way, why don't we deal with your husband too? I usually have the service. Discount on package deals. The woman replies, I don't like being a widow. Scene changes to Gang Ryong's tea shop. He was currently sitting in one place, constantly yawning, with two guests at the opposite table. At this time, he had just finished eating and stood up to leave. That was a delicious meal. Let's come again next time. Gang Ryong politely bowed his head and sent the guests off. Thank you. There was still leftovers on the table. 2 dumplings left by the other 2 guests. As soon as Gang Ryong saw them, his eyes immediately lit up. Without hesitation he rushed over to bring the dumplings to his mouth to eat. Just at this moment, behind him, a foot stepped on his head. Didn't I tell you not to eat leftovers? Gang Ryong explained, I just wanted to help Yeren clean up the dishes. The old woman angrily scolded, I don't need you to care about that. How can I raise a 4-legged pig while the 2-legged pig eats everything and doesn't have any left? Yeren at hey, he just came out of the kitchen. What's going on, Mom? The old woman turned around and said, Tonight I'm going into town to meet someone, so I probably won't be back. Gang Ryong excitedly exclaimed, See you later, old lady. The old woman shouted angrily. Who are you calling an old woman? Call me boss or big brother. If you see me in town, pretend you don't know me or I will kill you. Wait until the old woman leaves before Yerin says to Gang Ryong. Hey, I told you to tell me when you're hungry, right? Why don't you do what I told you to do? You're going to eat leftovers like that? Gang Ryong didn't dare look at her, shyly covering his face with the bowl. Yerin sighed again. Okay, I'll make you some cakes while mom goes out, so let's go to the kitchen later. Gang Ryong excitedly said, yeah. At this moment, 2 pigeons flew in the distance. Yerin quickly went out to pick up the pigeons. This is a big order. Maybe the dumplings for you should be left for later. Gang. Not long after Ryong was happy, he became disappointed. Come on sister, are you joking right? Don't joke, Yerin. In the evening, after Yerin finished making the cake, Gang Ryong quickly ran to town to deliver to the customer. Seeing that he was cute, he immediately gave him some. It's still warm, eat slowly. Yes, thank you. Gang Ryong hung left. The delivery has been completed, I have to quickly return to order. Let's deal with this right away. As he was walking, his eyes suddenly looked big. He quickly turned around and hid in the next alley. It's the old man who loves her, he has to run away quickly. Otherwise she will kill me. But who is that man? It was dark at a certain pavilion by the river. This young girl was Song Choyoung, she was Myo Chung's assassination target. The young man in front of her was agitated, her body kept shaking and blurting out. Up, your beauty. This evening is really a tipping point, Myo Chung, 6 days of not seeing you is like 6 years to me. I really don't know how I survived 6 days without you. Song Choyoung was a bit incredulous. Oh my god, what are you saying? That's so weird. The young man reached out and grabbed her hand. I don't mean to joke at all. My whole life had to live in hiding to stay as far away from his wife as possible, but now it's different. My life is now wide open again. When you appear in the morning sunshine, please run away with me. I promise to spend the rest of my life living like a dog loyal to its owner. To serve you. Song Choyoung listened to him for a while and couldn't help but put his hand up to cover his mouth and giggled. No, let's just be friends. The young man passionately cut off her hand and act like a babe. How can you do anything else if you're friends? Myo Chung, who was drinking tea nearby, heard his words and couldn't help but tremble. Damn it, what are they moaning about? That's so disgusting, it's really nauseating. I have to castrate him for martial arts. I can't let people like him lay eggs. Ignore the requirements of the mission, I have to castrate him. I will use my hidden weapon to deal with this bitch first. Thinking of this, he opened his mouth to reveal the hidden weapon injector. But unexpectedly, before he could even spray the hidden weapon, the spray tube was taken by another hand. And the person who grabbed his hidden weapon was none other than Gang Ryong. And he immediately fell down. All the needles inside the tube came out. He knew right away. Want to assassinate? You are an assassin, right? Song Choyoung was surprised when he saw Gang Ryong. Shipper Gang. Gang Ryong waved his hand and smiled. Hello, what a coincidence. When Myo Chung was exposed by him, he immediately kicked his chair and stood up. The other young man headed towards Song Choyoung asked, You know him? Song Choyoung shook his head. No, Myo Chung was extremely confused. Who is this kid? I couldn't feel his breath. Even when he came close to me. Next to me. Gang Ryong leaned into Tai Song Choyoung and whispered, I think someone wants to assassinate you. Do you want to go somewhere else to play, or let me teach him a lesson? Song Choyoung looked sinister and told him, kill him. Gang Ryong stepped back in panic. Oh my god, I cannot. Myo Chung from behind took this opportunity to pull out a chain and hit him. Gang Ryong didn't even look back. Waited for the chain to hit him behind him, then swung his leg up to kick it away. The chains were blown off course and hit the wall next door. The other people in the shop were immediately frightened by the fight between the two of them and stood up. What's going on? There's someone fighting, help me. Myo Chung failed in his attack. Cold sweat poured down his face like rain. His 1,000-pound shadow anchor had killed many masters in the sky. Wanderer. Why was this kid knocked away so easily this time? Gang Ryong thought to himself, oh my god, I can't control myself again. The young man behind him also stood up and said, we better get out of here quickly, Song Choyoung. Gang Ryong also sweated and trembled when he saw this situation. Myo Chung swung the chain again. Watching the chain break through the air and rush around his body, Gang Ryung was not afraid at all. He calmly raised his hand to catch the chain. Then pulled with force. Strong. Myo Chung was immediately pulled by him until his body flew away. He was dragged away, his eyes widened in panic. Unbelievable. Gang Ryung squinted his eyes angrily looking at him. It's because of you bastard that I'm going to soak myself in hot water. And after saying that, he swung his hand straight at his head. Myo Chung had absolutely no way to avoid being punched and immediately fell to the floor. The floor also crumbled to pieces. Gang Ryung's face was filled with a helpless look. Damn, I was too strong with him, right? The whole building then immediately collapsed. The entire fortified courtyard was knocked down by Gang Ryung's punch, and then gradually sank river bottom. When the people on the shore saw this situation, they were frightened. What just happened? Oh, my parents. Luckily we didn't climb up there. Very quickly, the people in the river quickly pulled each other onto a nearby boat. Luckily it was a group of guests, but no one had any problems, everyone was safe. Got the boat. Song Choyoung turned to say to the eager young man, I'm sorry, you better go home early tonight. The young man was so panicked that he didn't recognize the woman in front of him. Who are you? ? When Song Choyoung saw his attitude, he immediately panicked and turned around to hide his face. It turned out that Song Choyoung was Gang Ryung's boss in disguise and fell into the water, causing her disguise to be revealed. Oh my god, this is truly terrible. My dentures fell out. Gang Ryung stood behind her and exclaimed, Big brother needs to change his makeup right away. The old woman angrily turned around, held him tightly and started punching and kicking. You're dead. Sure damn kid. This is why I told you to act like you don't know me if we meet on the street. After venting her anger at Gang Ryung, she turned to the other young man and smiled. Okay. If it's like this, then you can't hide it anymore. From now on work hard and live well. Boy, also treat your wife well. The young man was this is a big shock. Just sat there blankly without saying a word. Gang Ryung stood in the distance, covering his mouth and saying, Mistress. Please don't tell Yeren that I used martial arts tonight. The old lady angrily shouted, Dream, I won't let you. This matter won't be quiet, you will tell him everything, including the previous stories that you have kept silent until now. Gang Ryung continued, It seems I have stored precious wine and precious herbs. Somewhere, yes. When the old woman heard that, her attitude immediately changed. What happened to us today? Not far away, Myo Chung was tied to a wooden pole floating on the river. The scene changes to another side. A mouse is looking for food. As soon as it runs near a lump of meat on the ground, it immediately falls into a hole. Then from the forest there are several people wearing clothes. Black comes out. Oh, big sister Hyuk Lan, we succeeded. This mouse trap game is really fun. It's so simple but it's so perfect, this weird trap. It's truly a work of art. I'm a bit surprised at the sensitivity of this trap. In such a small change in weight. On the other side there was also a person, experimenting with trapping mice with a basket. After the mouse was turned upside down by the basket, she immediately sighed, What this trap is still not enough to catch the mouse. The leading girl looked at her with depressed eyes. Then immediately had the people tie her up. The remaining girls heard that and rushed to capture her. Tie her up. Hey you stupid girl. This is as stupid as focusing on a finger while pointing at the moon. Starve it until it's smart enough to leave. Big sister Hyuk Lan is the leader of the Mi Solwa group. This is a gang shrouded in countless mysteries. The leader of the mesmerizing flower group is also known as the Shaper of Death. She prefers to be called an artist rather than an architect. At the time of the Mechanism Wa group, there was an old man coming with a lot of wealth, he said. Nu Dong is nicknamed the Brutal Sword. He is from the Golden Dragon group. He has declared that he will protect us. But in reality he is like a leech that refuses to leave. He is slowly sucking all of our blood dry. We hired several assassins to assassinate him, but all of them suffered a great battle, so we have had to suffer the consequences of this unsuccessful attempt. We came here because we heard that with the mesmerizing flower group, nothing can be difficult for you girls. Even if the leader fails. Hyuk Lan laughed loudly. Haha, you've come to the right place, old man, because our killing method is to eliminate our targets in accidents deliberately. We will probably fail repeatedly, but we will not stop taking revenge. This is our strongest advantage. Hoo hoo. Everything depends on you guys. Haha, why are you so impatient to leave? We have aged garlic wine here. Will you stay and have a few drinks? Don't dare, we're in a hurry. A few days after meeting that old man, Hyuk Lan was so angry that he gritted his teeth and hit the table. She screamed, "What?" failing over and over again. Who do they think this mesmerizing flower is? Dare to insult us like that? You will definitely pay the price. The group of people behind quietly discussed. That's what Big Sister said herself. Hey, shut your mouth, what she heard is a big deal now. Hyuk Lan in front was still extremely angry. An artist can't stand this kind of humiliation, group of bastards. Yellow line, I will make you pee in fear and have to kneel down and beg for our forgiveness. The group of people behind quickly turned around and wanted to leave quietly. Let's go pack up our tools. A moment later, the crowd of Mi-Sol-Wa all gathered in front of a wooden bridge. Hyuk Lan stood in front and used a tree top to continuously rub on the bridge. Hee. The first super trap has been completed. The group of young girls behind applauded. You are the best. At first glance, this bridge looks like it can withstand an entire army passing by, but in reality, just the weight of a small mouse is enough to make it fall to pieces. It's truly amazing. Sir, we've watched everything you've done and still can't believe it. I can. This is truly a world-class work of art. Hyuk Lan then said, okay, now let's see who our target is. The group quickly took out the manuscript to have a look. According to the news, he will pass here. In a few minutes, let me see. Not far away, Gang Ryong as usual was carrying dumplings to ship, while the group discussed. Gang Ryong used extremely fast speed to cross the bridge. Even though the crowd couldn't see clearly who he was, they were all surprised by his terrible speed. What just crossed our side? So, it was so fast that I couldn't see clearly. Could be a person or a pig. What but a pig? Hyuk Lan interrupted them. Let it go, the important thing is, did that thing just cross the bridge? The crowd silently stared at the bridge. I waited forever but didn't see any movement. Hyuk Lan couldn't believe it and exclaimed, a pig crossed the bridge and it still didn't collapse? What is this? Did I make a mistake in making this trap? She said as she walked over and stepped on the bridge to take a look. Unexpectedly, as soon as she stepped on the bridge, it immediately collapsed. On the shore, on the other side, their target Nu Dong had just arrived. He saw the collapsed bridge in front of him and Hyuk Lan's group and frowned. The group had no time to pay attention to him. They was using a rope to pull Hyuk Lan up from the bottom of the abyss. Oh my god. Luckily, you're still wearing your safety belt, are you okay? Nu Dong stood there observing them for a moment. Then raised the bottle of wine in his hand to take a sip and turned around to leave. The group of people on the other side of the bank were still extremely chaotic. I think she'll be fine, everyone hurry up. Scene changes to another side. Gang Ryong has now delivered dumplings to an old monk. Wow, it's so fragrant. This seductive scent comes from shiitake mushrooms and lotus seeds, right? Of course. This is a special portion of vegetarian dumplings for the master. Wall often laughed loudly and took out the money and gave it to him. Haha, I owe you so much. Here is the money for the dumplings, take it quickly. Gang Ryong raised his hand to accept the money politely and replied, it's nothing, I'm just doing my job. At that moment, behind the old monk, there was a loud banging on the door and screaming, Abbot, Abbot. Try, please forgive us and open this damn door. It's been almost 10 days since you haven't eaten or drank anything. Hearing that, Gang Ryong couldn't help but cover his mouth. Laughing, the old monk was so embarrassed that his face turned red and he shouted loudly. Shut up and get out of here. Why do you care if this old man is dead or not when you don't even pay attention to what I say? He then turned his head towards Gang Ryong and reminded him, oh yeah, when you come back tomorrow. But he was startled when Gang Ryong disappeared. And he went to the window and stuck his head out. Let's see, Amitabha. Since when did he go down there? He must have light skills. The old monk's residence is located precariously on an extremely high mountain peak. That's why his disciples, the monk in the temple, had a dream. I can't even imagine that someone would fly up here to deliver dumplings to him. Gang Ryong had left for a long time, but the crowd was still outside screaming and advising him, Abbot. Abbot, please open the door, we'll bring you some sesame porridge, we're afraid you'll make yourself sick at this rate. Old Wa often shouted loudly while eating dumplings. I told you it was all gone. Scene changed to another side. Hugh Lan had now gone to another place to set a trap. After using a tree branch to wipe away the traces on the ground, she breathed a sigh of relief. After all, this time it will definitely succeed. In a place he never expected, the younger sisters behind clapped their hands. That's amazing, big sister. This time he will definitely fall into the trap. A young girl couldn't help but stand up and ask, by the way, big sister, and the mobile meat guard has passed away. Passed the bridge trap easily, he could be a martial arts expert in the guise of a pig. Hugh Lan swung the tree branch in his hand and hit her in the face and said harshly, prick up your ears and listen clearly. Martial arts masters are people who have the skills to walk on water and can walk without leaving footprints in the snow. Can pass through any place without leaving a trace. Have you heard clearly? Quote, a martial arts master, how many times have I told you that's just? It's just the imagination of gossipy people. We are artisans aiming for perfection in what we do, in every result we create. So if you have free time to listen to nonsense rumors instead, please think about creating more perfect traps. The group of people bowed their heads in unison. We know, we're sorry, said Big Sister Hugh Lan. I hope you guys have learned a lesson. At this moment Gang Ryong ran past them again. Hugh Lan saw him and called out loudly, that fat guy, stop. Gang Ryong pointed at himself suspiciously, are you talking about me? Hugh Lan waved his hand, it's you, come here quickly. Gang Ryong quickly flew towards her. The crowd saw him walk through the trap without reacting and were all stunned. Gang Ryong asked confusedly, what's going on? Hugh Lan didn't pay attention to him, picked up a stone and threw it towards the trap. This can't happen again. As soon as she threw the stone, a great sword appeared below. Up, Gang Ryong was surprised to see that. Hugh Lan pulled his shirt and laughed loudly. See, that's what happens when you step in. You will be flattened by it like a shrimp. Gang Ryong scratched his head and smiled helplessly. Ah yes, even though I don't know what it is. But it was still a pleasant surprise. Hugh Lan's face immediately filled with anger and he grabbed his collar and shouted loudly, who the hell are you? What kind of relationship do you have with Nu Dong? Why do you do this to more than one person? But the two traps that I painstakingly prepared for him to go into the past, damn it. Do you know how to create a trap? How much time and effort does it take? Gang Ryong calmly replied, well, I'm just a passerby. At that moment another voice rang out in the distance, guess who it is? Hugh Lan was holding Gang Ryong's collar and turned around to look back. The person who spoke was Nu Dong. He came out of the forest and looked at Hugh Lan and asked, are you the girl who collapsed the bridge? Right? So does that mean that trap is for Nu Dong? When the people of Mi Sol Wa saw him, their faces changed. They didn't have anything to do with Gang Ryong anymore and simply ran away. Nu Dong's face was fierce as he ran after her. Do you think you can escape me? The group heard that but suddenly even more scared. Only Gang Ryong stood there with a sigh of relief. But unexpectedly Nu Dong swung her sword at him. Luckily he reacted quickly and dodged. He turned around. He waved his hand and explained, I think you have the wrong address. Nu Dong failed to attack and was extremely angry. He turned around and swung his knife again. You avoided my sword. It seems like the Golden Dragon Gang sent here a kind person. Gang Ryong dodged his attack while explaining, it's not like that, I'm just a passerby. Avoiding it for a while, he was pushed by the opponent against a tree trunk with absolutely no way back. Nu Dong saw that and quickly rushed over. Die, boy, Gang Ryong sighed. Raised his fist and punched his sword body, causing the long sword to immediately break. Then swung out another shot. Punched him in the chin, sending him flying into the air. I told you I'm just a passerby. After hitting a few punches, Gang Ryong was startled and looked left and right. Luckily there were none. No one saw everything. He didn't dare to hesitate, quickly rushed away. As soon as he left the group of charming flowers, he poked his head out from the nearby bushes. I saw it. I also saw it. Big sister, did you see it? ? We already said that piece of meat is a super expert. Long live the piece of meat, it is the piece of meat that saved us. Hugh Lan looked at Gang Ryong's back and exclaimed, "What a master!" "Sisters, yes, sir." Hugh Lan's face turned red, clearly showing her infatuation, and exclaimed, "You had to do it." "What now?" The group's faces were full of confusion. The scene changed to the tea shop where Gang Ryong worked. Yeren was now sitting with her chin in her hands looking at him. Gang Ryong was sitting next to him, constantly devouring dumplings. Seeing his appearance, Yeren couldn't help but wave her hand and hit him, laughing loudly. The happy and playful scene of the two of them had all entered Hugh Lan's group's binoculars. The person named Hwa Sol followed Gang Ryong's trail and ran here. The girls behind saw Hugh Lan's expression and whispered and sighed, "His fate has come. Maybe our group will now have another pig." Why did Hugh Lan suddenly get angry and scream, "You pig, he just finished flirting with me. Now you're running over and making fun of that girl." The group of young women behind heard that and widened their eyes in confusion. "That's why we should keep men hungry and give them chills down their spines. I will trap you with the cruelest trap, a trap that even the devil would succumb to. Wait there, pig." When they heard this, they quietly turned around and left. Scene change, reminiscing about someone's past. In front of a shabby thatched tent with two boys playing rock, paper, scissors. The boy lost at rock, paper, scissors, then was immediately carried by a strange mango. "If I could have won the first rock, paper, scissors game, I could have kept my original life. And if my younger brother had been the one to lose the death game, damn it, he was the one who got sold instead of me. To pay off that bastard's gambling debt. Would my fate have been different if I had won that game of rock, paper, scissors?" This is the recollection of a sinner. Being locked in a wooden shackle. Remembering everything, he couldn't help but exclaim, "At least it's not bloody like this." As soon as he finished speaking, someone punched him. "Your head is crazy hot, isn't it? What are you mumbling, you bastard? If you're really that stubborn, why don't you stand up and fight back?" The captain saw his subordinates torturing the prisoners and said nothing, letting them beat them. "What's wrong? Your martial arts skills have been ruined. Well, if you die, we'll be happy to give you a place to rest." Finally, the captain saw that they were making too much noise and couldn't help but shout, "Enough is enough, he will definitely be executed. But we will be in trouble if he dies here." The two people heard that and immediately let go of the young man. The captain said, "Okay, rest, it's better to let him die. Relax for a moment before letting out your breath." Finally, one of them, before going to rest, did not forget to turn his head and spray a spit on the prisoner's face. The three of them then went to rest under a big tree. "This looks good." The assassin raised his head and looked up at the tree canopy, thinking, "Anyway, I never lost again in that simple game." Three people sat down under the tree to rest and drink water. They talked. "Captain, how far is it from here to the capital? If we go at this speed, I guess we'll be there in another day." At this moment they were startled to look at the assassin in front of them. "What is he doing?" "I don't know anymore." The prisoner stood up and slowly walked towards them. "Who wants to play rock, paper, scissors? If any of you can win against me, I promise to forgive you. Give you 3 dogs your lives." The 3 people heard that and were all stunned and didn't understand. The 2 junior soldiers then couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Haha, what is this crazy guy babbling about? He must be crazy." One of them held a spear and walked towards the assassin. "Let's see, we still have a long way to go. So it won't be your legs, but your arms can be destroyed." As soon as he finished speaking, suddenly a chain rolled down in front of him. "Young man." Before he could react, he was dragged up to the tree by chains. The other 2 people saw this and were also frightened. The soldiers' pitiful screams then echoed continuously. The prisoner's face was still cold. Then countless other assassins rushed down from the tree to capture the 3 officers and rescue the prisoner. It was quickly taken down. "It's good to see the boss is still healthy." The boss glanced at the soldiers. "I was suddenly caught while playing with girls. All the fun was cut off midway. If I had known in advance, I could have handled it myself. But wait, these soldiers don't know the great name of our boss." The boss then walked in front of the captain. He had been beaten by his subordinates. His whole body was covered in blood. The assassin came and stared at him. A moment later laughed loudly. "Oh my God. It's a bit of a hassle to let all 3 of you live, but if you can beat me, Then I will still give you a way to live. Do you want to try playing? The captain asked in doubt. Play what? The boss looked serious. Of course it's rock paper scissors, it's broken. If you defeat me, I will let you live. I'm serious. The captain's face was full of disbelief. After a while all 3 officers were thrown down the cliff by the assassins. The group of people then walked away together. Are you sure there aren't any rats following you? Yes, I'm sure. White Skulls is a gang specializing in robbery. A gang gathering criminals who specialize in killing people, a gang that loves notoriety. Even other gangs are afraid of their cruelty. There is a strange rumor about the leader Wang Ahk of the White Skulls. He was captured in a small village. But when the 3 soldiers who took on the task of escorting him back to the capital disappeared without a trace. Then the rumors also disappeared. It was dark at an abandoned house in the forest. Wang Ahk and his group were all there. Gather here. Haha, that whore is so delicious. I was planning to do it a few more times when those damn soldiers rushed in and hit me in the head. Made me unconscious on the spot, so I was taken away. When I woke up, they had already put me in a basket. But then again, this is really fun. One person said, next time you should bring a few of us with you as bodyguards to prevent anything like this from happening again. Another guy spoke up, what's the point of talking like you? Anyway, old man, you're too careless. With the name of Wang Ahk, wouldn't it be embarrassing for Yama's hand to be captured by such women? It's like you're getting weaker or something. Why, if it was before, you would have cut them in half before we could even lift a finger. That's right, boss. Wang Ahk put down the wine cup in his hand. Lieutenant, how long have you been my subordinate? Lieutenant stroked his chin thoughtfully. I don't know, it's probably been about 4 years. Wang Ahk asked again, in my opinion, 4 years is long enough for you guys to want your big brother to have some scars. Quote. Lieutenant smiled and waved his hand. Come on boss, this is just my subjective opinion. Wang Ahk didn't care and continued saying, let's play rock, paper, scissors. If you win, you can have the position of my boss. Lieutenant heard that and jumped in fear. The rest of the group also tensed up and sweated. Wang Ahk spoke harshly again. Uncle, you heard me. I'm very serious. The odds are for you to decide. Do you want to play? My finger still hurts. Lieutenant waved his hand in fear. Ha ha, boss, you're joking, right? The 2 looked at each other. Lieutenant finally couldn't help but step back and wanted to pull the long sword from his back. But when he reached back, his long sword had already disappeared. What's more surprising is that it's in the hands of Wang Ahk. Your sword is quite good. Lieutenant was scared and sweating like rain. Immediately after that, many scars appeared on his body sword, blood splattered. Since when did you? The remaining group of people saw the fresh blood spurting from the lieutenant's body and were also frightened. Wang Ahk then placed the sword on the table. He continued to raise the wine cup to drink. Do you know where he is hiding? The crowd was startled and replied, he's hiding somewhere near Golden Dragon Mountain. He's obviously a descendant of a certain noble family, a bit far from here. Wang Ahk frowned. You, a noble family. He dared to steal gold from me, and now he goes to enjoy it alone? The more he talked, the angrier he became, the more he clenched his fists, causing the wine cup in his hand to be broken. It was so boring that the entire wine cup was lost. Does anyone want to play rock, paper, scissors with me? If you win, you will get the vacant lieutenant position. The scene changes to the restaurant where Gang Ryong is now, where there are also a few customers playing rock, paper, scissors. Damn. I lost again. It doesn't matter how many times you play. Basically you can't win against me. Ha ha. Damn, I should have given up. Ha ha. If you've given me a hammer, then I'll give you money. There's nothing better than a free meal, right? Quote. The biggest difference is in our martial arts level. You can never defeat me. What does rock, paper, scissors have to do with martial arts proficiency? It has a lot to do with other things. Rock, paper, scissors is a game that requires a high degree of decisiveness and is not allowed to hesitate. Once you decide to make a move, there's no way to change it anymore. So to win every game of rock, paper, scissors, you not only need to have sharp eyes to predict what your opponent will do, but instead you must have absolute reflexes to be able to change your decision in an instant. These are all nonsense. I will definitely defeat you. You in the next competition. Ha ha, nothing like that. Outside the shop door, Gang Ryong as usual carried the goods ready to deliver. Before leaving, he didn't forget to turn his head to look at Yeren and say goodbye. I'll be home soon. Yeren waved her hand. Okay. Remember to be careful. The owner also came out from inside, a big order like so, it must have been ordered by the Lord. That rich family again, right? Yeren nodded. Yes, it is him. The landlady said, I really want to see how he is, but he never leaves the house. Maybe I should go there to see his face once. Yeren helplessly asked, Oh my God, Mom, why are you interested in spying on weak people? To the point where you can't even step out of the house? The old woman replied with a disgusted look, when you eat turkey stewed with Chinese medicine every day. Then sometimes you'll want to eat a sick chicken. But my God, why would you eat a sick chicken? Mom, have you run out of things to eat? I'm just giving an example. I'm always so serious. Gang Ryong walked along the small path on the cliff. The group of people from the White Skulls clan moving ahead saw him and got excited. There's someone running this way. Good, then there's someone to ask. I'm on my way. One of them quickly walked forward to stop Gang Ryong. Boy, stop for me. Gang Ryong, who was running like he was flying, immediately put his foot on the brake. He asked, Do you have any houses around here? So wait, what smells so good? The group of people quickly ran to surround Gang Ryong to take a look. Is that thing on your shoulder meat? There are meat dumplings in here, right? Hey fat guy, put them down so we can taste them. Gang Ryong continued, I'm really sorry, but someone has already pre-ordered these dumplings. The angry people threatened you. Did you just say something? This fat piece of meat must be blind, look at us. Is it like cutting it to let you pass? Wang Ahk suddenly walked up and laughed, I'm really impressed. I really like brave young men. Yes, a delivery guy should have such courage, haha. But unfortunately we are also hungry. Why don't we decide? Let's decide by playing a game of rock, paper, scissors. Gang Ryong was skeptical. Rock, paper, scissors. If I win then I can go right. Wang Ahk replied, sure. But if we win then not only will we get the dumplings but also your arm. Gang Ryong excitedly raised his hand. It's great. Rock, paper, scissors. Wang Ahk was extremely confident in his abilities, but in the end he failed against Gang Ryong. He himself and the juniors behind him had no choice. Believing what the hell was going on, Gang Ryong just won and quickly ran away. I still have hot goods to transport, so I had to go first. Goodbye everyone. Wang Ahk was angry, shouted, quickly bring him here for me. And several people received orders to chase Gang Ryong.